Hello, everybody. I don't know why I just did that. I just felt a song in my spirit. This is episode 41 of the Muse Report podcast, the number one podcast in the world. If you want to build your vision and a lifestyle you are proud of, thanks for tuning into this episode, guys. This is going to be a good one. We're talking about money. I need to stop. That wasn't good. Anyway, we're talking about money. In this episode, I sit down with Aleise Kay. Aleise is a self-development and finance coach, and she's all about enhancing your life and your wallet. In this episode, we discuss tips to help you save money, investing, credit scores, and many other financial mindset tips that you could just start applying right after you listen to this episode. I mean, you can't build your vision and have a great lifestyle if you don't have any money, you know? So in this episode, we're going to really break that down, get into some finances, personal finances, and see how you could just improve that portion of your life. Let's get into it.
Loading.
Extra, read all about it.
It's a case study for success.
Be teachable.
What better way to learn than to just ask?
The learning process becomes a journey.
Turning dreams into realities.
Part of execution is totally believing whatever you're doing is going to work.
What are your passions and what are your gifts? And that's where it really starts.
Chances are for taking. Take a chance on yourself.
Any and everyone is capable of being a leader.
You're not going to have all the answers immediately.
Mentors to expose you to things that you otherwise wouldn't know.
It was all I thought about and dreamed. Like I would literally get up in the morning, practice, because I knew the time would come.
Just do it.
Long story short, I do financial and self-development coaching. I basically got on this journey not too long ago, maybe a little less than a year ago, where I was really trying to figure out, I had a certain financial goal that I wanted to hit, and I was trying to figure out all the ways that I could hit it. And I was like, okay, Aleise. And one of the ways that I thought of doing it was a skill that I have is that I'm actually really good with my finances. Even though I still had a goal I was trying to reach, I'm really good just naturally at those financial topics and saving, investing, and just accumulating money. And so I was like, let me figure out how I can monetize that skill. So I started to do financial coaching. And while I was doing it, I started reading a lot of books and self-development and just ways to accumulate wealth. And I started to basically fall in love with the idea of, developing yourself. And naturally, as you develop yourself within, then money can accumulate even better, because if you're in the right headspace, if you have the right mindset, you can attract wealth easier than if you weren't. And so basically I tried to conjoin the two, my love for finances and self-development. And so now I do coaching programs that basically intertwine both of them.
When did you really start finding the whole financial thing with money? Were you saving from, your first birthday? You say, oh yeah, piggy bank right here. I'm going to start. Or did you kind of hit it when you were in young adulthood or things like that, which is primarily a good amount of my audience is in that age range. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure they will want to know exactly how you started.
So, my financial journey in general, I would say probably started when I was younger. My dad was always one of those people that whenever we even got a little bit of money, he made us save a certain percentage and made a certain percentage go to tithe, and we were only allowed to spend a certain amount. And so I kind of grew up that way. But once I got my first job at 17 and I was able to accumulate my own little bit of funds. I got involved in some risky activity with my money, like in like pyramid scheme type stuff. And
Ooh,
I lost,
yeah.
and I lost like everything that I had. And I was like, what the heck? And so that kind of catapulted me because I was in this place where I was like, I had nothing. And I was like, okay, Aleise, you can't let yourself get back there ever again. And so that's when I started saving a lot. This was before I even knew really about investing. But my goal at 17 and 18 was to just save as much as I could. And so I would just save a big chunk from each of my paychecks every time I got paid, even into college. And then junior year, I got into investing and figured out how that stuff works. And then senior year, I was still into the same stuff, still saving, still investing. And then it was when I graduated college, like a few months after graduation, that I started really thinking deeper about it and like more stuff that I could do. Because basically I just realized, I had a corporate job straight out of college. And, it was great. It was perfect for what corporate is. Benefits are great. Everything's good. But I also knew that there was only a certain amount of money that I could make while I was there. There was going to be a glass ceiling at some point. And so, I started to think, I was like, how do these people like make six figures or become millionaires? Like, what do they do? Like, what is it that they're doing? And that was when I learned about, they use skills that they already have and monetize it for themselves. And so that's when I really started to get into it, like a few months after I graduated in May. And that's when I started to deep dive and figure out what I was good at, figure out my skills, how I could monetize it, read up on all that stuff. And here I am now.
And what was that process like, just going from, okay, you have your college degree and now it's time to get a job, or it's time for life to start?
Yeah.
Like, how did that go?
I mean, okay, so it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, like when I first started, because, I had internships every summer, like corporate internships, which were 9 to 5, 40 hours a week.
Yep.
So the only difference with this one was that there was no end date. I was starting in June and I wasn't going to be able to just, be done in August and go back to school.
So it was an internship.
No. This wasn't.
Oh, so it was like an. Okay, got you.
Yeah, that's what was like. That's when it kind of hit me. Okay, I started in June, and then August rolled around, and it was like, man, like I can't just leave.
Right. Yeah.
Like this is my living. And because I'm from Massachusetts, went to school in Tennessee, and got a job here in Tennessee, and so I moved here. And all my family is somewhere else. So it's just me here on my own, got my own apartment and I'm paying real bills, doing all this stuff. And it's like, man, like this is real life.
This is it, huh? Oh, okay.
And that was kind of, you get into that habit, I guess, that routine of like, okay, like, I go to work, come home, pay bills, go to work, come home. And then, I hadn't even been there that long. And of course, I wasn't just going to like quit. I'm not just going to do that. I'm not dumb. But I know that I have things that I have to pay for. But, you get to this space where you realize, man, like there's definitely more to life. Right. There's more to life than this routine of just doing something because you're obligated to do it, And I feel like that's really what sparked what I'm doing now, is because I just, you come out of college, and even being in college, they teach us all this stuff, basically just teach us how to get a job, but they don't really teach us how to monetize the skills that we gain for real. They teach us how to look good in an interview and how to get a job and work for corporate for 40 years, but like they didn't teach me that, some of the skills that I gain here in college that, maybe won't get me a job in corporate, but could make me a really good entrepreneur. Like they don't teach you like that kind of stuff, like skills that you already have and how you can use it to either help somebody else and make a living that you're passionate about. It's very like you're stuck in like this bubble. Yeah. It's a very narrow bubble. And I didn't realize any of that stuff until I started to like deep dive into like the stuff that I'm doing now. Because I really thought I was meant to just be in corporate in a cubicle for the rest of my life.
So what were you trying to do before? Like, what was the job, and like, what was the route you were going?
So my end goal when I first started, when I became a math major, was to be an actuary. And
I don't even know
basically,
what that is. I'm sorry.
I know. They work with insurance rates and they make a lot of money. Like you can hit six figures very quickly.
Okay.
And like that was my motivation there. And, I took the test and just didn't pass it. And I was like, you know what, at least maybe there's something else. So I went a step down and did insurance underwriting, which you do. Basically, it's not the same thing. It's not as complex, but you do the calculations of the insurance rates and all that stuff, minus like some aspects. And so that's what I got a job in. And it fit my major. It fit everything I was doing perfectly. And, I got into the job, you do it long enough. And I was just like, man, I don't love this at all.
Right.
I was like, I don't love this, and it's not to say I didn't love what I studied, math and business, because I'm using the skills that I gained from my classes to do what I'm doing, just not for somebody else, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I came across this course from this marketer that I follow on Instagram who was really popular. And, she had a webinar that she was doing and I joined it. And it was basically on how to build your own course based on skills that you have.
What is the name?
Right.
Sorry, what's the name of this person?
Her name is Danielle Leslie.
Okay. I know exactly who you're talking about.
Oh,
I just watched a webinar like 4 days ago.
Yeah. I loved her. I really did. And I still do. And, that was really what sparked it. Like, cause I'd seen like a couple webinars before, not from her, from other people. And I was like, I don't really care that much. And I don't have that kind of money to invest to really figure out that stuff. Right. And then, I saw hers and I don't know what it was about her. I don't know if it was because she was Black or because she was a woman and Black that just like made me like, you know what? Like, yeah, I can do this. And so I bought her course, like full-fledged, just went for it and bought it. And I was like, all right, let's see what this is about. And, her course is so like detailed and step-by-step to help you figure out what it is that you're actually good at. Like, I went from like asking my friends, asking my family, asking my fiance, like, hey, what are things that I'm good at? Like if I were to do a course on something or if I were to teach something, what would I be good at? And almost everybody said finance. They were like, you're really good with finance. You're really good with finance. And you're really good with giving advice and like, helping people through things. And I was like, okay, so how can I like put that into like a course? And then I kind of fell off track with her course. I kind of fell off and got kind of discouraged and just kind of started reading a lot of like self-development and like wealth building books. And it started to really motivate me because I was like, like there's so many people who don't know this stuff, who are paying thousands and thousands of dollars just to know this knowledge that I'm getting from a book that cost me $10. And so, I started talking to my dad because my dad is kind of like into this stuff too. He's very like out there with his mind too,
Cool.
And I told him all about this stuff and he was all for it. All for it. He's like, you got this, like, go for it. And my mom, she was like, why would you do that? There's nothing wrong with your job. Because I was basically like, Mom, I'm not passionate about this. I was like, I have to do something else. And I figured out something I'm good at that I probably want to pursue full time. And she was like, no, like, what is wrong with you? You don't just quit your job. This and I was like, Mom, I didn't say I was going to just quit my job. I was like, relax. But I was just like telling her what I wanted to do and how I was going to start it. And so I just started doing kind of like research and I started like testing it on my Instagram with like polls and stuff like that to see what people actually like wanted to learn, what people actually like didn't know and how I could actually help.
Okay.
And, it started there. And then I got into another course that was on like goal setting and really just rebuilding your mindset. And it was that course along with all the reading that I was doing, and I'm still in that course now, that got me to the platform that I'm at on Instagram. Because now I'm posting a lot more and I just I'm not even like afraid of it. So I'm really just like posting and posting and posting and what motivates me to do all that stuff, because all of that is way out of my comfort zone. In 2018, before I started all this stuff, I posted probably 6 times for the entire year. Okay. Like I'm not a social media person at all. I don't like to just post like that. But I was like, if this is something I seriously want to do, I need to propel myself and just put myself out there. because every day that I go to work at my corporate job, I know that this is not where I want to be in a year from now. I was like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to have to be here. So that pushes me to push my content out, to tell more people about it and just share myself. And through this process, I've learned that this game is less about selling a product and selling your skill. It's more about just selling you. You know, people pay me not just because of my skills, but because they trust me as an individual and they like me. You know, and that's really what this whole process has done, if not anything, not only enhanced my skills and finances, but I'm a better person overall. You know, I know more about myself and what I want out of life and what I can offer to people. And now that the fulfillment that I feel, you know, I just know that I can help other people feel the same way. And it doesn't have to just be through finances. And that's the thing, like, even though my skills in finance, I'm also good at self-development and guiding people through that process of developing yourself. And that helps with every aspect of your life, whatever goal.
I want to get to some more practical things, especially for the audience. So as young people, young adults, or even older into life, financial literacy and being financially aware is just like one of the most important things that you could do in your life if you want to have happiness. And
It's true.
Yeah. So can you just provide basically like how you necessarily go about controlling your finances, or even if you have something already in place for your clients who are trying to either get out of debt? Some people come out of college with student loans, or people who are just trying to budget better. I'm not exactly sure which route to go down. I mean, you're kind of better at this thing than I am. But there's like just so many aspects I think that could be taught about financial literacy and knowing how to save and use your money.
I feel like one of the most important things, and it's not exactly like technical, like cash, like, oh, open a savings account, do that, but something that people don't share enough that they should, is developing a mindset, a positive mindset towards money. I feel like a lot of us grow up with this mindset that there's a lack of money and that, you know, we just constantly are without it and we never have enough of it. And that's why when it comes to us in large quantities, we just have no idea how to deal with it. And we automatically just want to spend it because we're like, oh, well, we don't know when we're ever going to get it again. So, you know, live in the moment, just spend it responsibly, do all this, because we're like, oh, it's never going to come back. And we have this mindset that it's like money is this thing that we love and we hate almost, because we hate how it stresses us out and all this stuff. But realistically, money it's here to help us. It's really here. And we have to develop a mindset to know that there is so much money in the world. There is not a lack of money. There's so much money in this world. And it's really just a matter of how are we going to attract it? What am I going to do to get it? So, you know, debt was also a motivator for me when I started, because I was like, I have student loans. You know, I was like, how am I going to pay my student loans? Like, how am I going to pay this and that? And, you know, I had to kind of stop thinking like that, because it really just would stress me out. And I don't even think about my bills like that anymore, because I'm constantly in this mindset that, like, you know what, money's going to come. And whenever I think like that, money does come. And I know it's kind of weird. You know, even people who aren't religious, I'm religious, you know, and I believe that God provides, you know, and when I'm not worrying and when I'm not stressed about it, it just kind of comes. And even people who aren't religious, all these millionaires that you read about that aren't religious, that believe in the universe and all that stuff, they believe that you attract like what your mind basically like says. So if you're constantly saying, I'm broke, I don't have enough, I'll never have this amount of money, I'll never have that, you won't. You never won't. You will never have it, because it's not going to come to you. You're not attracting it. There's nothing in your mind that should say, oh, or if you're religious, there's nothing that is telling God, you know what, I'm going to give this person all this money because they are showing me they deserve it. You know, like, if you can be grateful and have gratitude and know how to handle the small amount of money that you have,
making $10,000 a year, $5,000 a year, whatever you're making, then that's when God can see, like, you know what, this person can handle this little bit of money. This person is grateful for this little bit of money. Let me bless them with even more. And that's how it starts. So that mindset is where you should be focusing on first, right? While still also learning the basics of financial literacy as well. So like saving, for example. Every time I get paid from when I was in college, I had an automatic savings plan with one of my accounts, like a separate account that I had online that would take out money automatically from the bank account that my paycheck would go in. So it would automatically save every 2 weeks a certain amount. So I wouldn't even see it. I wouldn't even miss it because it would be gone by the time I checked my account in the morning. And now in this corporate job, you know, my checks are bigger, but I also have bills now. And so I have like maybe five different accounts that my paycheck is distributed into just to control my spending more. Right. Because the way your mind works is when you see large amounts of money come into one place, your mind automatically tries to figure out how to spend all of that. So unless you get to a point where your mindset's trained, where you know, okay, I'm not going to do that, but just why even test yourself? You know, I just don't even want to test myself. Like, I've been there. When I first started working this corporate job, I was getting those big checks. I was spending stuff I didn't need to. I was like, Aleise, what are you doing? What are you doing? I was like, get it under control. And so I started to distribute it to different places. I had a utilities and bills account. I had a credit card account. I had groceries. I had fun, like spending for me. Wow. Like, I separated it completely. So if I only give myself $100 or $200 every 2 weeks to spend for fun, that's all I get. Right. I was like, my mind can only figure out how to spend that much. And that's it. I don't even look at the other things if I don't need to.
I never even thought about doing that. That's crazy.
Yes. It's great. And it also helps with saving too, because I have a certain account that it automatically goes in for saving that I don't even look at. The only account I really look at is my spending account that has gas and like food and like fun. That's the only account that I look at. I don't really look at my rent and utilities because that comes out automatically. I don't really look at that stuff. And it keeps me from overspending and going negative because I'm not just going in and spending money that I don't need to, because I've automatically designated certain places where I know I'm allowed to spend.
Wow.
But I had to get to...
And you said you had one for like your groceries and stuff too, like all your expenses?
So I have an account that I use for groceries, gas, and fun.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So I don't spend a lot on groceries, and gas is like $20 every 2 weeks. So I mean, it's an account that I can just kind of spend freely and not worry about if I'm not gonna have enough money for this because it's such a small amount of things. But I have a utilities account. I have one that I use to pay for my credit cards. And then I have a savings one that just goes to my savings. I even have one for my gym membership, that goes into my account, that comes out of my account for my gym membership. So it really just keeps me controlled. But you have to develop yourself to be aware enough to know where your weak points are. And a weak point for me was, I know that if I didn't have all these accounts, I just wouldn't be as much in control. And I don't like to write out budgets. You know, this makes it easier for me. I know certain amounts. I know how much I need to have in each account. And budgets to me are boring.
Yes.
I know I'm a professional, but I don't like them. This is an easier way for me to do it without having to write out a budget each month. So another big thing that I get a lot of questions on is investing, because that was another thing that I had some success with. And basically, I've learned, and I learned this from my dad too. Well, I learned it from my dad first. You cannot hoard and save your way to wealth. That's just not how it works. You know, like the millionaires in the world didn't become millionaires by just saving every time they got paid. Like, you can save and save and save, and you'll have a nice little emergency fund after a while. But that's not really how you accumulate wealth. Wealth comes from investments. It comes from risk. You get big returns from risk. From big risk. Exactly. Like, you can save, and after 50 years, I'm sure you would have accumulated a nice chunk of change. But at 22 years old, that's not how I'm gonna become a millionaire, by just saving my way
and hoarding my way to wealth. And that's what I
the biggest
thought.
asset is time.
Exactly. And that's what I thought. But then I started investing my junior year of college, and I was like, man, like this compound interest is a real thing where your money literally accumulates for you. Your money is working for you in these accounts, in these stocks. And it's like, man, and so many people don't know about this and are afraid to do it. When really, you know, I've learned from my experience. I've had my losses. I've had some big losses, but I've also had big wins. You know, it's all a part of the learning process. And I've learned the first thing that I tell people is if you're going to start investing and building stocks, like at least gain your experience in it and start investing in things that you know, small things that you're familiar with. Like, you know, everyone has an iPhone, right? We know that Apple is consistent. Right. Apple's been coming through. Apple has things out every year. They're keeping up with technology. So that's a stock that, you know, I'm not worried about long term because they've been coming through. They're keeping up with the times. Like they're growing and they keep growing. Amazon is another one. Constantly just keeps growing and growing and growing. We all know and love it. You know, and so, you know, I tell people if you're going to invest in things that you know first, you know, and then, you know, because you're not going to know every company. You're not going to know, but at least do your due diligence and research to know as much as you can about the company before you put your money into it. Right. Because, you know, with investments, you can lose, you know, so it's better that you know that you're at least putting your money in a place that's financially responsible. Because, you know, not every company that we love is doing great financially.
Nope.
They're not. So it's just, you know, it's give and take. And I feel like people should seek out, like, you know, whether it's books or professionals. You know, my dad is a professional, you know, he's been doing this stuff for years, knows all about it. And that's who I go to give me knowledge on, okay, like what stocks are good, like what's going on here and this and that, you know, seek some help because, you know, you don't know everything. I don't know everything. I still have to seek help from other people. And sometimes I have to pay for it. A lot of times I have to pay for it, you know, but with real wealth comes the wealthy people pay to know more. That's also what I'm learning. Yeah. You eventually get to a point where you can only get so far for free. Yes. You know, and that's another thing with financial literacy. It's like, you know, we're so concerned about saving and hoarding and not wanting to spend a certain amount. And it's like, I wouldn't be where I am right now if I didn't invest in certain coaching programs and courses that weren't cheap. You know, they weren't, but they've catapulted me to places that I wouldn't be or would have taken me a lot longer to get there than if I decided not to do it.
Yeah.
You know, so.
And for someone who never invested before, never done anything like that, do you recommend going with those like big company stocks, or do you recommend going with something like super practical, like an app like Robinhood or other things like that? Or do you go against penny stocks, or what do you think the beginner should do?
I'm not a huge penny stocker. I mean, I have a few. They're very risky. I wouldn't recommend them for beginners. I mean, of course, if you're trying to be cheap and you want to put in $10 on a penny stock, sure, you'll be fine, but your returns aren't going to be that great. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like, I'm not a huge penny stock person, very risky, but to each their own. But as far as apps, so beginners, I would recommend, like, I first started, I think I was a sophomore. I started with Stash, where you can invest with as little as $5 and then basically invest in like little shares of a bunch of different companies. So it's very low risk, but it's basically just to show you how like your money can grow even with such a small amount, and just imagine what it could do with a big amount. You know, like with $5, you could go up 50 cents in maybe 2 months or something like that. You know, imagine if you had put $100 in there. You know, right. And you were getting 50 cents for every $5 of $100. Right. You know, so I have Robinhood, and I like Robinhood. I like Robinhood a lot. And Robinhood isn't just like a small one, because I have like real stocks, like expensive stocks and everything. Like my portfolio is still pretty nice with Robinhood. I just like that I don't have to pay for the commissions. That's what I appreciate. And I also have an account with TD Ameritrade, which is a discount brokerage, and that's like a real one. Like you pay for commissions and everything, but there's some stocks that Robinhood doesn't have, and so I'm like, all right, I have to go through there. So, but I would definitely recommend starting out with Stash and Robinhood. I love those. I had good experiences with those. Stash for very beginner if you're starting out with small, and then Robinhood once you're ready to make the leap to get into like real stocks.
Right. So I read your ebook. So other people listening might not know what that is.
Yes.
6 tips to evolve your life and enhance your personal growth.
There you go. You got it.
Right. So what are those 6 tips?
Okay. So I will name all 6 and give like tiny like sentence descriptions for each of them. Okay. So my first tip was, or I could just, do you want me to go through all of them, or do you want me to say like which ones I find? I mean, they're all pretty important, so I'll just name them. It's fine. So the first tip I had was morning routine. And I put that on there because working full time, I don't always have the energy to come home at 6:00 p.m. and just bust out everything I need to for the business goals that I have. Mm-hmm. So I started waking up at 5 a.m. and sometimes even earlier, because that gives me a good 3 hours or more to really just read and figure out stuff, brainstorm, goal set, and do all that stuff. And my mind is so fresh that I feel like I'm so productive in the mornings when I do that. And it's like I'm so much more productive than when I come home and I'm doing this stuff at like 6 p.m. because I don't have the energy. Yeah. I'm drained. I can still do some stuff, but it's definitely not as well and doesn't go as well as compared to if I didn't do it at 5 a.m. Mm-hmm. And having a morning routine kind of forces you to develop discipline, and it kind of forces you to show up, and when you have morning routine, the discipline that you develop to wake up earlier whenever you wake up or sticking to your routine, that's a discipline that you can gain throughout everything that you do your entire life. Because if you're showing up for yourself at 5 a.m. to accomplish your goals, you'll show up to do the other things that you need to do to accomplish your goals. Right. So number 2 was reading. There's so much gold in books that I wish I had taken advantage of when I was in college. But college just literally puts a downer on books because you're forced to read like 50 pages, 60 pages a night. And I kind of just stopped doing it when I was in college. And I started doing it more when I graduated. I got Audible and started listening to audiobooks on like self-development and developing wealth. Yeah. And it's just gems. Like there was this book I used to read when I was like 5, and she always used to say, reading is the special key to take you where you want to be. And it is, okay? Yeah. It is. It has so much gold. And the things that you learn in books that you can teach to other people, you can monetize off the knowledge that you learn simply from books because people aren't willing to read.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I got an Audible account a little while ago because like I was just like there were so many books I wanted to read, and I am not a fast reader like at all. Mm-hmm. So if you're not a fast reader, a quick reader, and you're listening to this, there's hope. Audible, a sponsor for this episode. Just kidding, we're not sponsored. But yeah, like Audible is like is good, and it's basically like listening to a podcast, but it's a book. It's like a book, reading, yes. Yeah, and you could just like fast track your knowledge. So I recommend that for anyone listening.
It's a game changer. Mm-hmm. And it's just like I have dedicated myself to be a lifelong student, and I feel like all of us, our goal should be to be lifelong students. We're always learning, and if you're not learning from somebody face to face, the next best thing is through a book. And so I just feel like it's the best way for me to keep my mind sharp and keep myself always learning, because I'm learning something new every time I read something. Even if you're listening to the same book, you get something new every single time. So reading, definitely a key. Number 3 was have systems. So basically, I feel like we focus so much on the goals that we have. And, we're just like, oh, we have to reach this goal, but we never focus on what it takes to actually reach it, like the steps that we actually take to actually get to that. Your systems come into place. Mm-hmm. Like what systems do you have in place to help you reach the goals that you want to reach? And so for systems, I basically talked about how, a goal is basically should be used to set a direction, but the systems are the basis of how you're going to complete your goal. Because those are the things you have to develop in yourself, like the skills you have to develop in order to actually to complete the goal. Those are your systems. Number 4 was quality people. The 5 people that you hang around the most are a representation of you. So if you don't like them, you don't like what they're doing, you don't like how you're, look at your 5 people around you and then look at yourself and see how it relates and how it correlates. Because if you're surrounding yourself with people that are negative all the time, that don't support, basically, it's like if you're in college and you're constantly hanging out with people that don't study or do their work, you end up doing the same thing. And the same thing happens when you hang out with people that love to study and do their work and you didn't. You start to study and you start doing your work too, because we naturally want to fit in with what's around us. So we naturally just end up doing that. So surround yourself with quality people so if you're going to be influenced by the right things. Number 5, I put no fear, because I feel like holds us back most of the time is fear. And no, I put no fear.
So like N-O fear.
But it really could be, yeah, N-O.
Oh, okay. I just want it's only audio, so like, I just want to make that clear. I mean, you need.
Oh no, you're fine.
Yeah.
No, basically like have no fear.
Gotcha.
So with fear, we hold ourselves back a lot and get in our own way because we're afraid of things that are literally irrelevant. We're afraid of failing, and the worst thing that can happen when you fail is that you learn something. We're afraid of what people think about us, and it's like, those aren't even real fears to have, because it's like the people who don't appreciate what you're doing or want you to fail are irrelevant. They should have nothing to do with why you're doing what you're doing. You are doing what you need to do, and there is somebody out there that is praying to see the content that you have to share. And you're letting people who don't even matter and your own faulty self-esteem get in the way of the purpose and the goal that you should be sharing to other people. So that was another one. And then my last one was gratitude. And it really just, having a spirit of gratitude just kind of shifts your entire mentality, because it doesn't leave much room for you to complain about anything, because instead of thinking of ways to complain, you're thinking of ways to be grateful instead. And I feel like that just kind of speaks for itself, instead of you're stuck in traffic and you're like, man, I just hate everything about this day. When in reality, you could really just say, man, like, I really like how pretty the sky is today. Or I really like that I get some downtime. Or, there's always something that you can be grateful for instead. Yeah. And it really just changes your perspective on everything.
For sure. Something else that I kind of want to get educated on, really, for myself, and I'm sure some other listeners might have the same questions, especially if they're young, is credit. Is building credit.
So I got my first credit card my freshman year of college. I got a Discover student card. And I got it specifically to build my credit, so that way by the time I graduated, I had good credit. So my advice, and honestly, I recommend this so highly, but people ruin it because you guys get spendy and you guys get credit happy, and then you guys don't pay your bills. So how I was able to build my credit while I was in college was I had this credit card and I would use it, but I wouldn't use it on things that I wouldn't have used my debit card for. So basically, like, if I didn't have the money already in my account, I wasn't using it.
Right.
Unless it was like an emergency. And I honestly didn't really have those. So I was swiping, I was using it, but I was also paying off my balances every month. Even if I couldn't pay off my balance, if you have like interest free, like, okay, you don't have to pay for balance, but at least pay your bill every month, minimum payment or something every month. I would recommend pay higher than the minimum payment. It looks better. But I usually paid off my balances every month, and I never missed a payment. And I was using it I used it like often, not too much. Like if I used it maybe twice a month, I was paying it off. So it wasn't a big deal. You don't have to use it a lot, but just use it enough that you can pay. And because then you're showing creditors that you have a good history, you have a track record. Like you use and you pay back, you use and you pay back, and that just shows lenders, oh, this person is trustworthy, and that's really what credit is. It's basically how trustworthy, how much can we trust you to pay back your debt that you have. And like, your credit score is basically, the higher it gets, it's rewarding you for the good things that you're doing with your credit and your credit card.
Right.
So, I had my credit card, I was using it, and I was paying it off. That was really, I didn't do much other than that. I did, and I wouldn't recommend this, I did get a credit card, I got a credit card my sophomore year and then my senior year. So I had 3, but I wasn't using all of them. I was using them to basically extend my credit limits. So it looked like I was only using a small amount of the entire limit that I had. But I was a very responsible credit card person. And that's the issue. Not everybody is. And as much as I want everyone to have great credit, some people can't handle a credit card in college. And as a young adult, some people, they have to develop that skill. But the way to build credit is to, I'm sure people say that you can get it without doing a credit card. I don't really know how. I think through your phone bill or something. But I mean, I know for me, and I feel like that was the quickest way that did it for me, was having my credit card, using it responsibly, and paying it off every month. Because I graduated college in the high 700s credit score, and I was able to, get my own apartment without cosigner and all that stuff because my credit was good. So that's really.
And when you were using it, were you just buying random stuff? Like you were going to Walmart and getting some oodles and noodles and you use a credit card?
Yeah, stuff that I would have bought normally, like if I went to the mall or something, or if I ordered something on Amazon.
Oh, so
I would use my credit card.
Not use your debit card, and you would just use your credit card.
Yeah, and sometimes I just didn't feel like seeing the money leave my checking account, so I was like, I'm just gonna use my credit card. But I would still always pay it because I was like, all right, at least I want good credit. Right. I always knew that I wanted good credit, so that was the goal every time I used it. Now I'm there, so it's like, all right, as long as I keep paying my bills, I'll be good.
So imagine that you're driving down this street or whatever, and I think I've been calling it Creative Boulevard because lots of creatives listen to this podcast. Mm-hmm. And on this street, you have signs, billboards, because there's a lot of traffic, so of course people are going to advertise on there. What would be something that if you owned one of these billboards and you wanted everyone on this road to see it, what would your message say to the people?
Never stop growing. And I'm going to steal another quote that I know. It's going to say, never stop growing. And then underneath it, it's going to say, because those who mind don't matter. And those who matter don't mind. Because the growth process, not everybody's going to be there for you for it. They're not all going to like it. Mm. And some of them are going to be like, what the heck is she doing? Why is she even doing this? And honestly, it really doesn't matter because they just won't be there when you hit where you're trying to go. Because the ones who actually matter will be there rooting you and supporting you and just helping you grow. Anyone else is just irrelevant. So why are you stopping?
That was the money episode. Hopefully we hit it right on the money. Hopefully you learned lots of things from that interview. I know I did. Thank you, Aleise, for coming on the show. She was great. And if you have any more questions about finances or anything in that regard, you can contact her. I'll put all her links and contact info in the show notes, so you can click those links to just get quick access to her. And if you have a question for me or anything about the podcast, just message us at the Muse Report Podcast. That link will be in the show notes as well on Instagram. If you liked this episode, screenshot it, show me that you were listening, tag at the Muse Report Podcast, put it on your story and tag us, and I'll share it on my story, and we could just share the love between each other, and spread the word. If anyone that you know needs to get their finances together, if they're a young person, if they're coming out of college, or even if they're an older person and needs some financial advice, give them this episode, give them Alise's information, and we could just get this ball rolling as far as helping each other build each other's vision and the lifestyle that we want to live. Thank you guys for tuning into this week's episode. That's about it for me. I'm signing off, and I will talk to you in the next 5 Minute Friday. Peace.
But that's the end of our MRP episode.
episode. Thank you for listening, everything but it's time to go. We'll have a new one for you next week on the flip side. But until then, don't kill the vibe, subscribe. Don't kill the vibe, make sure you go ahead and subscribe. Don't kill the vibe, make sure you go ahead and subscribe. Don't kill the vibe, make sure you go ahead and subscribe. Don't kill the vibe, make sure you go ahead and subscribe.